watch out for me as I'm one-handed. Mayor wants to pedal.
Hey, Ray.
Pedal and smile.
As mentioned earlier, I'm Dolly Sandoval. I'm the mayor in the city of Cupertino. And I'd like to thank you all for coming out for this memorial ride in memory of both Kristy Gough and Matt Peterson, who we lost in a tragic accident in March. So there's a number of people that I'd like to introduce you to, I think who are very welcomed by your presence here and your spirit during this memorial ride and are comforted by your thoughts of their two family members. I'd like to first ask our pace car driver, John Peterson, to come on up. John? And John, if you'd like to ask your family to come up also, that would be great.
This is my wife, Betty.
Here, John, why don't you come on to this side? Betty?
Wife, Betty, Mary, Melinda. Oh, this is not a happy place, you guys. Right after the accident, we spent, probably 45 minutes here, and it was perhaps the most difficult part. Perhaps the most difficult thing that we did. I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department. At that point, they brought us out. They did a partial road closure. We wept uncontrollably. It was probably the worst thing, the most difficult thing that we did. I was in Tucson about a week ago driving my car. I came to a stop sign, a stoplight, and 2 lanes over, there was a cyclist. It looked just like Matt. I knew it couldn't be Matt, but I so desperately hoped that it was Matt. And I was staring at him, hoping that he would make eye contact, give me that Matt smile, maybe a thumbs up, a wave, a hi pops. That was the way that he greeted me. The light changed. I drove on with tears streaming down my face. There was such a deep wound happened here in our family that it is obviously not closed. It is not healed. It has begun to heal. I don't know if it will ever completely heal for our family and for Kristy's family. Just a complete tragedy. Perhaps the best advice I think that I received came from an old friend whose daughter was killed tragically by a drunk driver about the same age as Matt and Kristy. And he said, you need to try to remember the good things, the happy things, the things that Matt did to make you feel proud. And a couple things recently happened. About 2 months ago, they dedicated a fitness center at Walmart.com. There is a beautiful plaque on the door. There is a beautiful plaque inside. And I just felt so terribly proud, and I was so very grateful for Walmart. Another thing that happened was that an old friend walked up to me, and he had been at the memorial service. He was so deeply moved by the memorial service and by everything that Matt had done in his life, the way that he had overcome sickness. He had lost a great deal of weight. He had become very fit. And the guy, he came up to me and he said, you know, my wife and I have rededicated ourselves to being fit. My wife is running. I am cycling again. Your son has been such an inspiration for me, and I want to thank you for raising such a great son. I was so very proud. I haven't seen the memorials. There's something under the canvas, but my hope is that people will see the memorials and perhaps be inspired to excel, to be the best that they can be, and at the very least, when they see the memorial, that they will realize how precious and how quickly life can change. You just don't know from one moment to the next. Life can change so much in the beat of a heart, and we just need to not live life with reckless abandon, but with passion, with purpose. Thank you so much to the city of Cupertino. I'm not sure whose idea this was, but we are very honored. Thank you to the cycling community, his friends. Thank you to the Sheriff's Department for getting us out here. And from the bottom of my heart, guys, thank you so very much.
This is the most beautiful place, and you know that I just think about that morning in March, and I think about how proud Matt was of what he was able to do, and how proud he was of having strength and having just, you know, being in control of his body and being able to ride his bike fast and just being able to just be there and just, you know, he was in touch with life. He had this passion about him. It bothers me that body that he took really good care of it had to be decimated so badly in what happened. I mean, it's like, was his life just wiped out completely? I don't know. You know, there's just so many questions about this whole thing. As we came around that corner, when I was here the first time, I thought, oh, this doesn't look like an accident site. This doesn't look like a place where an accident should occur. And this morning when we came around it, I was aghast, because looking at it a second time, it never should have happened. And there was a little tiny error made. It had these huge consequences, and it affected all of us. And I don't know, I just feel our family's been changed. You know, you knew Matt as a cyclist, and that was your connection to him, and you were friends, and you rode together and played together and had fun together, and that was just one little part of Matt's life. As a son, I can attest that he was the greatest. I miss that, yo mama, what's going on? I mean, he'd call me on a regular basis, and it was, we'd talk about everything. We'd talk about, he'd tell me, you know, Matt, I bought too many sweatshirts. What should I do with them? Sell them, Mom. Put them on discount. Get rid of them. Or it just whatever was going on. He was involved with it. He was involved with life. He was involved with his family. He was right there. He was present for us. And that just, I miss that so terribly. I miss being able to feel how he feels, and just touch him and see him, and it's just like that just isn't going to happen anymore. But we said, you know, we thought this should be an upbeat thing. This is a good thing the city has done, and I thank the city for doing this. This is a wonderful thing that to put the memorial up, and I hope in some way that it can just take, you know, ease the pain just a little bit, or I don't know what eases the pain. The pain comes and goes. Right now it's here, but I think it's because we're here. So I just want you to, you know, to just know that we're proud of who Matt was and how he lived his life. And I don't know, 30 years, that's not very much time. But I guess it's a tragedy that he died. It would have been a greater tragedy had he never been born. And I just have to take those 30 years and just suck them in, and it's like we're in time warp now, because he's never going to get beyond that age. And he's never going to experience those things that were down the road for him. And, you know, sometimes that really hurts. But thank you for being here.
Just a real quick thing. I think one common thing that the team and my family has tried to, or word is about perspective. And there's been a lot of talk about how Matt and Kristy died and about the accident and about their death. But I would hope that when you come riding up here or pass it or think about them, that you don't think about their death and the way they died, but you think about their life and how they lived. So that's about it. And thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me, my family, and I'm sure Kristy's family also.
Thank you. I think the point that you just ended with is really striking. There's a lot of people who know Matt and Kristy through their years of cycling, through their work lives, through their friendships, and I think they will be remembered in a positive light. And that's part of what today is for. I'd like to ask Kristy's father and mother to come up. And if you'd like to bring your families up also and introduce them. We have Rip and Karen, who was in front of me the whole ride. So Karen, you were really my mentor this morning. Rip?
Yeah, we have, sorry, my name's Rip. I'm Kristy's father. This is her grandfather, Bill Gough. He flew in from Texas. They say that greatness and your traits kind of skip a generation, and in 1943 he came within a fraction of a second of setting a U.S. record in freestyle swimming when he was 16, and as soon as I find evidence that it doesn't skip a generation, I'll get back to you. And this is Mother Karen, her stepdad Bill, and this is her brother Gabe and his wife Irene and their two sons. And there's another man here who played a key role in Kristy's life, I know, is Dave Worm. Oh, and Dave is over here. When Gabe called me, we were talking soon after. We were talking soon after the accident. He said we probably ought to have a plaque on this side of the hill, and so Gabe has a job, he has a family, and he's going to college. And I said, well, I'll go ahead and make the calls. And I met a gentleman, haven't seen him, Rick Kitson was the first person I talked to. But if he's here, I'd just like to say thank you because he helped us. If it had been left up to Gabe and I, there would have been a plaque here that said, "This sucks." And but fortunately, we have a more artistic side of the family that came up with some words. And so, but I'd like to thank the city for making it possible. Rick Kitson guided me through the process of writing letters and being nice, which was not prone to do. And so I appreciate your efforts in the city council for allowing us to have some site here where people can stop and remember. I know part of the theme of today too was to try to remind people in this community and anyone that hears us that there are people out riding every day. And I thought about this conversation I had with Kristy. Kristy would call me sometimes after a training ride, and she'd sit there and she'd say, I'm laying in bed with my legs up in the air, draining blood and stuff, and I'd go, and I'd say, what's happening? She'd tell me about these rides, and she started on one time telling me all these stories about people that had been run off the road, and people that had 4,000-pound vehicles going within inches of them, and how almost terrifying it was to be faced with that. And we were talking about it. I told her, I said, it seems like in most cities that drivers are in some race, and I said we should just get T-shirts made that say "The Great Race to Nowhere," and I said, and they forget that the people that are on a cycle riding or even running along the road are people that are somebody's mother or father, and a son or daughter, a sister or a brother, and so I guess what I'd like to ask is that for anyone that hears this or reads the words, that when you're out there driving, if you could just slow down for a second and give them a wide berth when you go around them so that they can come home to their loved ones, we'd be really grateful. I promise you that you won't lose your place in the race, and every good deed finds its way home. I think that's really about it. I'm so grateful that you guys show up here. I think everyone who's here that knew them knows that you have some moment in almost every day when the world seems to stop and there's no more sounds, and you are reminded that there will be no new memories of Kristy and or Matt. But by your presence here today, you remind us that we are not alone. So from my heart, thank you. I hope you all have a safe ride back home, and I hope that you'll take the words of Matt's father and remember that we have no guarantee. So live your lives well, and I hope that you ride strong. Thank you. You can't let him speak.
I don't think I can stop him.
The road closes at 10.
I want to thank everyone for all of your support. Those that knew Kristy personally and those that have only heard about her. I'm sure you've heard some very interesting stories. Kristy was fearless. She was very determined, and she knew who she was. That is a great gift. And I can't help but think that everyone that knew her could feel that from her. Excuse me. What she's left me with is, besides all the memories, I now too am fearless, because I can't think of losing anything more important. I read something the other day where a man was asked, if you knew of someone who was going to die, what would you say to them to comfort them? And he said, I would tell them that they are not alone, because when they die, a part of me goes with them. And I know that that is true. And I want to thank all of you for taking Kristy into your heart and keeping her alive. Because when we're gone, she will be gone too. I'm very thankful for this plaque because it will now leave a reminder of her. And for those of you that drive by it often, as I know many people do, I hope you'll glance over this way and think of Kristy and let her inspire you. Because she still inspires me. Thank you.
We here in the city of Cupertino pride ourselves really on the communities that we build. And the bicycling community is a huge part of our family. I'd like to ask Greg McFeeters from the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition to come up and say a few words. Greg?
Appreciate having the opportunity to come out and speak today. As Dolly said, I'm Greg McFeeters. I'm the Vice President of the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. And SVBC, for those of you who aren't familiar, we're the local bicycle coalition for Silicon Valley, advocating on behalf of cyclists. I'm of course sad to be here. It's a beautiful place to be riding. Sorry. I started riding this road when I was in 8th grade. I'd ride out here with my friends. We'd go mountain biking in Stevens Canyon. So those are some of my best memories. It's wild to think that that's before we widened the shoulder here. And the road's actually much better than it was back then. We had so much fun. I didn't know Matt and Kristy, but as cyclists, we all share a bond knowing the intense joy as well as the vulnerability of cycling. On behalf of the board, I'd like to send our condolences to the family, friends, and teammates of Matt and Kristy, and also thank the city and the community for coming together so positively. This was a tragic incident, and although in some ways it was a freak occurrence, it did highlight that even a law enforcement professional whose job it is to serve and protect considered it okay to get in his car and drive, even though he had gotten little sleep and was extremely fatigued. And unfortunately, this is just far too typical of our attitudes about driving. We can do it with minimal effort, minimal concentration, talking on our cell phone, playing with our iPods, eating a sandwich. We can do it in our sleep. SVBC has set out to try and change this mindset. It's kind of a daunting task, but our response has been our Share the Road program, which many of you are probably familiar with. The aim of our program is to educate motorists about cyclist rights, paying attention while driving, and just reinforcing the idea that cyclists could be out there anywhere around the next bend. And of course, we're always very involved with infrastructure improvements. Too often cyclists are overlooked in road design and intersection design and just in our general planning of our communities. So that's something that we work very hard to do on behalf of cyclists. So obviously none of this can help Kristy and Matt, but hopefully in their memory we can make our communities better and safer for those of us that are still here. So thank you for the opportunity to come out and speak.
As many of you know, these were our second and third deaths up here in the Stevens Canyon area. Jeff passed away, I think, just about a decade ago. And when I was first elected to the city council, one of the first big capital improvement projects that was asked of us that was out of the normal process was to widen the road just around the corner. And at that time, the leader of the bicycling community in my mind here in Cupertino, Don Burnett, who was just coming off of the council, fought for that capital project item to go forward. And we thought widening the roadway at that point would help us tremendously, and it did for a number of years. But I think that as we get back on our bikes and back in our cars and walking on the sidewalks, we all need to be cognizant about sharing the road and being present in whatever modality of transportation we are in to make sure that there are others around us who may not be as present, but that we have equally a responsibility to take care of. We do all types of things in the city of Cupertino to make sure that walking and biking and driving are safe. And yet all of us, I think, see all kinds of aspects where we take our eyes off the road for a moment. We might run a yellow and, heaven forbid, a red light. We see other people doing that. And I think we just need to be cognizant that in a second, life can change dramatically, not just for a driver or a bicyclist or a pedestrian, but for multiple families along the way. The bicycling community here being one of them. We dedicate this memorial today, though, on both to Kristy and Matt as a reminder of cyclists sharing the road, cars sharing the road, and also as a remembrance to all drivers, particularly up here in the hill area, but in the flats everywhere. And so we've got a little bit of an unusual, I think, memorial here, along with a couple of plaques. And so I'd like to ask both families to please join me over on the unveiling side. And we'll show you what it looks like, and we hope for this to be a reminder to people to share the road. On behalf of the City Council, the City of Cupertino, and as you can see, the bicycling community, we are so sorry for your loss. And yet, Kristy's spirit and Matt's spirit, who I must admit I never had a chance to meet in person, but I can feel the love and the warmth and the friendliness that they brought to life. So, thank you for sharing this day with us.
Pumpkin. What are you were going to draw?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, no matter how